Okay, hello everybody. I'm here with Terri Witherden for this month's Career Transitions interview. And Terri, we'd love to hear what were you doing before and what are you doing today?
So before I started on this very higgledy-piggledy journey of self-employment and business ownership, I was a literature graduate in a full-time marketing position in London. It was very much social media, copywriting, strategy, these kind of things. And it was a wonderful experience to go straight out of university into that position. But after a few years, I began to realize this wasn't really my jam anymore and things weren't really aligning and everything became quite draining. So I left that position and I'm now a digital designer who specializes with visual identities for conscious businesses. So businesses in the fields of sustainability, the environment, empowering ethics, that kind of thing. So as you can see, I've completely retrained out of more copy heavy marketing into more design led things. So yeah, that's where I am now.
Fantastic. And I was thinking we met back in 2015 on sort of an adventure trip on the Mississippi River, which I always like to say. It sounds very cool. In fact, I've got the picture, haven't I, of paddleboarding over there. And I know I had already sort of gone quite far. I'd already quit my job and I was already working on my business ideas and so on. So for me, it was just an amazing adventure. But I think for you, that was quite a pivotal moment when you sort of woke up to the possibilities. So can you tell us more about what was it that led you? You mentioned a little bit there, the decision point, but what led you to leave behind that job that you had after uni and then have sort of higgledy-piggledy ended up where you are today?
When I met you on the Mississippi, this was almost what I would call pre the journey that I'm now on, or the transition that I made, because it was the first few months where I was hanging around with people like yourself who were existing outside of companies and doing things with their own skills, and not just with their own skill sets, with also their passions. So if somebody was choosing to be an adventurer who paddleboarded down the Mississippi, they would do that and find a way to monetize it and find a way to give it meaning. So that was the first time I was really beginning to experience the lifestyles of others who were doing things their own way and carving their own path. And I was part awestruck and part horrified, because the idea of going out on your own like that, I think 25, 26. And people were a little bit older, but also quite a few people were younger who was doing that. And to just actually go out there and kind of just take life and do what you wanted with it, it was very inspiring. But there was, a lot to learn. So it was that point where I really started to wake up and just see how other people were navigating their careers outside of this really like 9 to 5 ladder, jumping the rungs over the next 50 years of my life, and actually taking it into my own hands and doing things I wanted to do.
And remind me, what was it that led you to jump on that trip and to do that kind of adventure at that point in your life?
I'd gotten to the point where I'd been saving a lot of money with a job that I wouldn't say I hated it, but as I said, it just wasn't really giving me that much joy, and neither was the London lifestyle anymore. So when I first moved to London, it was all about the rooftop bars, the avocado on toast, massively overpriced, and I loved it. But then I now live in really rural West Island, so the pressures of the job as well as the pressures of just city life weren't working for me. So and adventure kind of communities, which then led me to basically, I'd saved a lot of money doing a job that I really wasn't bringing much joy, so I just took all that money and just spent it.
Nice, that's the way to do it.
Really interesting trips, things that I like yourself, I do love it when people say, oh, what are we doing? Oh, I just canoed down the Mississippi once, ended up in New Orleans, as you do.
The sad thing for me now is that is 5 years ago, so I can't just kind of for the rest of my life live on these adventures from a few years ago. So we're going to have to rethink the future. But
I think that's also something I did get quite caught up in, the dreams and the schemes of others at that stage, because obviously everything's very inspiring and you're not quite trusting yourself. And I then, about 6 months in, realized, hang on, I don't want to just have an adventure every year. I can barely survive one. I can't keep doing this. This isn't going to be a sustainable business model for me. So off I went on my own little tangent.
But that is so interesting, because I had the same. I very quickly fell into this amazing group of people, but it did make me think, oh my gosh, I've got to have my own paddleboarding adventure and I've got to pack up my life and live in a van. And that wasn't quite me. So I've never been quite the sort of Louis Vuitton end of the spectrum, but certainly rooftop bars, all about the rooftop bars, and the sort of nice. I still eat avocado on toast, although now I guess during lockdown I'm eating it at home, so it's a little bit cheaper. But yeah, I know what you mean. So it is great that you've latched onto something amazing and we get out of that comfort zone, but then we have to still make sure that we're not just latching onto another definition of success, which is then also not ours. And it's just a process, isn't it? It's sort of step by step. We took a step in the right direction, and then you have to go, oh, hang on a second, that's not quite as far. The other thing I felt was, after years of being quite boring and like comfort zoney and sort of being known as a certain type of person, suddenly I was this exciting adventurer, and I quite liked that. And it's also scary to suddenly turn around to people and go, oh, hey, actually, in my case, I'm going to settle down, or for you, I'm going to settle down in rural Ireland. I'm not going to do those adventures right now. In my case, even start a family and so on. And it's easy to feel like, oh, maybe I'm taking a step back, or maybe other people will think that I'm giving up on this incredible life. And that's, again, dangerous, because we don't want to align ourselves to what other people expect. The point is that we're making the choice for us, and that is going to evolve over time, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're saying there about the definition of success, when I first took the leap out of working for a bigger company and working for myself, I was very much working with what other people's definition of success was. I wasn't really working with what was working for me. So I was chasing a few dreams. Another coach I've worked with in the past and done a lot of money mindset things with, 2 years ago we were completely aligned, but now she's gone off in another trajectory, which is like millionaire in 12 months, Bentleys, Rolexes, and I was getting really fired up by it. Like, even this was just like a month ago, and I was like, yeah, I can definitely pull in all this money, and I can go out there and be the face of my brand, and I can get sponsorship from Nike, and yeah, this is great. And then I was taking a step back. Like, as I said, I live in really rural Ireland. There's, it rains every 15 minutes for a quarter of an hour, as my granddad used to say. I don't have any need for Louis Vuittons, or well, maybe if they do a welly line. But yeah, you just have to make sure that the people who you're being inspired by are actually inspiring you and not inadvertently leading you astray. Not that it's anything to do with them. It's all about you checking in with yourself and making sure you are still on the right trajectory. And as you said, that will evolve. If you'd have said to me 2 years ago, I just moved to Norway, really rural, mountainous surf area up in Norway. If you'd have said to me, you're going to move to Ireland and be hanging around with really cool families and thinking of starting your own, I'd have just laughed in your face. But suddenly this is kind of happening, and your business model then has to evolve with that, because it's gone from being a digital nomad, being able to survive month to month, to hang on, I need a string of income that I can show the bank manager to give me a mortgage so I can buy that ruin and do up a house. And yeah, everything changes, and it's important that you flow with that.
And I had a similar experience with my coach. I worked with someone for several years, and she was incredible and really helped me out. But she very quickly, very recently scaled and got a team of like 37 people, and suddenly said, hey, 8 figures, 9, and I was, whoa, that's a little bit too far and not quite the trajectory I want either. So it's just being sensitive to that, isn't it? So I think we've touched a little bit on sort of some of the challenges, but can you talk us through a little bit more? What were some of the sort of along that higgledy-piggledy journey, I guess, what have been some of the biggest obstacles or challenges you've come across?
I honestly think some of the biggest challenges, or even maybe the biggest challenge, is your own self-belief and confidence and acceptance of what you're doing. You need to look, like that classic phrase, get out of your own way. And for a very long time, I didn't. I wasn't quite believing that it could work. I wasn't quite believing I was confident enough or comfortable enough or capable enough. And I really wish that I knew that I was, and that things don't have to be perfect and they don't have to have been done 5 days ago. It's okay to. Recently, I've been working with yourself in the accelerator group, and I've really sunk down into this idea of this is a long game. This is a long journey. If it takes me a year to get this funnel up and running and people coming through it, it takes me a year to get the funnel up and running and people coming through it. There's like a sense of urgency, but it's also much more in control, I guess. I know that I've done incredible things in the past, whether it be adventure stuff or just living nomadically for 3 or 4 years to settling down in another country, and there's no reason why I can't then do that in business as well. I just have to be persistent, consistent, and keep showing up to it. And I think you've said before in your trainings, it's not sexy, and it's not like a 6-step program that you can sell in a do this, do that, and you're going to make it, but you do just have to keep showing up to it. So that is the struggle, is to keep focused enough on the goal, but flexible enough to be working towards it consistently, even when the blinders are a little bit down or you're not quite sure how it's going to happen. You just have to keep that faith and that confidence.
And those are my favorite words. And I know, and I always do say it's not sexy, because persistence and patience and consistency and showing up and just keep the slog of just going on and on. It's not as exciting as, and when we first start, maybe we do go, hey, I'll do a 12-week course and then ta-da, I'll have the successful business. And also for me, I focus so much on that one decision to leave. And as you and I think our higgledy-piggledy journeys have demonstrated, it's not about that one decision. It's a massive decision. It's a big, important, courageous one, but it is the little decisions along the way. And again, it's evolving and so on along the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's the daily habits. It's being a structure that puts you in the mindset, especially when you first begin. Like, I very early on, even like 4 years ago when I really did this full time, would get up, get dressed, sit at the desk for 9 a.m. because there is like a freedom and discipline. And again, it's not sexy and it's not what you want to hear when you're thinking about making this leap, but actually being your own boss is really empowering, but only if you do what you say that you're going to do.
Yes, and again, I agree. There's freedom in the routine, which is so odd. When I first left, I was like, no alarm, and I'm just going to do whatever I feel like. And suddenly you realise, hang on, not a lot has happened in my business. I'm certainly not earning money and getting consistent clients and sales. So yeah, it's I think people are very resistant to that. But exactly, if you do, and I just posted this on my Instagram the other day, that I think the average number of hours an employee works a day productively is about 3 hours, less than 3 hours. So if we do 3 hours, you can then go off surfing or making babies, if that's what you want to do. You can go off and travel and do adventures, and by all means, you know what I mean. But I mean, rather than being sort of locked to that. So yes, there's a bit of structure, but if you do 9 till 12, boom, you've got the rest of the day. You can of course work more, but that's really empowering. And I guess a lot of this has come from time as well. But you mentioned working, and we've worked together, and you've worked with other coaches, and I always admire how you look for that support. You sort of see, and you're so eager to learn. And I know you're a bit of sort of a time management organization geek now too. So where have you found the support along the way to learn these things and to get to where you are today?
Support, I think, has come primarily from 3 different places. So the first thing I would recommend anybody to do is make sure that you do have a supportive network around you, whether that's Facebook groups. I'm a member of quite a lot of Facebook groups for designers or small business owners or eco business owners, and it is nice, because you get to fire ideas across each other. And sometimes working for yourself on your own business, it can be really isolating. I also, as I mentioned earlier, have been a digital nomad. So I was living and working in co-working spaces like Portugal and Bali, and as I said, Norway and Cornwall. And they're really important because not only are you going to a physical office space, which again makes you put your business hat on, you're talking to other people who get what you're doing. Like, there's only so many times my parents can smile and nod when I explain like a marketing funnel or here's my lead magnet. My mum's on every email list, but it's not the same as actually meeting someone who is either on the same journey as you, understands what you're doing, or maybe a couple of steps ahead. So it's really a really great thing, like co-working spaces, whether you get day passes or really, really valuable. Because that also then led to me getting a lot of work, because you would be in networks with other entrepreneurs who would be like, oh, actually, I need a brand identity, or, oh, can you help me with my Squarespace, or can you give me advice on how to manage my time better? And suddenly you would also start to learn what you were good at and what people came to you for. So although you've branched out on your own, it's really important to have both, digital and physical networks around you that can, inspire you on the good and the bad days. And then, thirdly, get a coach. Like, it's scary, especially this year with everything going on with the pandemic and incomes being uncertain. It's scary to keep handing money over to a coach when you're not sure if you're actually getting a tangible result for it. It's not like, here's my money, you buy some cheese. But the benefits of having a coach who has, been there, done that, and can give you the shortcut. They can show you the way out of the maze, rather than you just hitting every dead end and getting very frustrated. To work with a coach who, it's a different thing to these 12-step programs or whatever that tell you what to do. Having a coach who understands the journey and then asks you the right questions so that you can find your way out of it in a way that's in line with your values, your definition of success, and the way that you want to set up your workday, it's worth every penny. And it's also a commitment to yourself. When you begin to invest in coaching and others, you're really starting to take yourself seriously, and you will see the progress in your business very quickly.
And that's interesting because there's so much information out there that's free, isn't there? And I mean, I do my podcast and the Facebook group and workshops, and maybe at the early stage that is what you need, right? You just want the information. If you didn't know what a funnel and a lead magnet was, maybe you can survive without those. But probably there's at some point I just immersed myself in lots of free emails and lead magnets myself at the time. But as you say, there's a point at which actually information isn't what you need. You need those questions, you need the accountability, you need the support network cheering you on and so on as well. So maybe that's a shift that happens, as you say. And I've really seen that shift in you as well, where you've gone, look, no, I am a business owner. I'm taking this seriously and these are my goals, rather than, hey, yeah, I'd like to become a business owner. And yes, I'm going, in the future. Yeah. You sort of say it, but you're not actually doing it.
I think as well, and that's something, and I think we spoke about this when I joined the accelerator, I really was getting fed up of telling myself I was a business owner, but the actions weren't adding up to it. So it was okay, I need help to actually sit down and do the work. But there's this great concept of, procrastination, planning and learning and getting all your free things and getting information from everywhere. And then you're kind of a bit overwhelmed. And then you also feel like you're doing lots of things. It's this whole idea of motion versus action. You think you've had a productive workday, but you've actually just kind of been in motion. You haven't taken any actions that are actually going to lead to concrete results. So having a coach that can kind of drown out the noise and get you focused is really important, I think.
Motion versus that's interesting, because I always think movement as well comes from action, because sometimes, and I filled my days before I even started working with freelancers and so on, I was just spending my week scheduling blog posts and emails and things, and actually when that was taken away from me, suddenly I had an empty calendar, and I think, oops, now I get why I wasn't getting a lot of clients, because I was just spending my time on that internal stuff and I wasn't out there talking to people. I know we've worked together on sort of these are the 10 things you need to do every week to make sure that you're checking, actually. And especially when we talk about that one focus thing, if we're looking at, okay, I'm monetizing right now. Okay, so every day, every hour almost, certainly every week, you should be doing stuff that is actually getting you to paying clients. And that's very sort of, streamlining that down and just distilling it to that is quite powerful. And what is the best part? I heard a motorcycle there go by a minute ago in your rural island hideaway. So what is the best part of your lifestyle and being this serious business owner these days?
I think the best part, especially in this very topsy-turvy world we now find ourselves in, is being in control of my own career. I've often, and it's something that even a few months ago I was exploring again, is I often wonder about the safety of what if I was to go back to full-time employment in a larger company. I actually had a couple of interviews for design and marketing roles around this area, and I was really excited. I was like, actually, this sounds great. I will go to this company 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. They will give me money. They will teach me things. I will meet people. I will learn, and I'll just be able to get my head down and chug on. And I was really ready for that. And they were excited to meet me, and I was excited to meet them. And then this was about February time, and then COVID started to happen. And then the interview went from an interview to a telephone interview to cancelled to me following up with them a few months later to discover they're not hiring now till 2021. So I feel like my hand was forced a little bit, okay, well, I'm going to run my own business then, because the other option is null and void. But it really made me explore that idea of the resilience I hopefully have cultivated now through being self-employed for the best part of 5 years. I am able to pivot and move quickly with these changes. I'm not kind of stuck in the headlights of my income is gone, my rent is due, panic. I was able to quite quickly be like, right, well, we're going to have to pivot some ideas around. We're going to have to change the focus. We're going to have to really show up to this challenge because there's no other way, out but through. And it made me think a lot about my friends who, have compared myself to in the past, who've come out of university, gone into a great company, really doing well right now. And now the job's gone. and nobody's seen that coming. Like, the company itself can't be blamed. They couldn't have prepared for it. Like, and it just really kind of rocked me to the core that there is no safe job, whether it's a corporate job or your own job. If you stop showing up to it or don't respond to the challenges that appear, there is no such thing as safety. You have to be resilient. You have to be responding. You have to be in that kind of growth mindset all the time. Otherwise you're just not going to end up in a very good place. So I would say, just to like circle this round massively, to be able to be in control of my own career could be a control freak thing, but to be able to see the obstacles coming down the line before they actually reach me, rather than have some superior just tell me, we're out of budget, you're fired, is to me, is how I want to live my life. Like, and that's both within my career. I want to be kind of, you get one shot, you know? So I want to be living my life the way that I want to live it. And if I'm spending 40 hours a week at work, a third of your life, I want to do it my way. So it's worth the extra responsibilities.
That's super clear. And I don't think you're a control freak at all. I think it's human nature. And there's so much research about, you know, the autonomy and the importance of having that. Control is almost a negative word too. It's the freedom and the flexibility. And so, yeah, autonomy is quite an important word, I think. And it is a really profound insight that I think hopefully people have woken up to not too late this year, that actually that apparent security that we think is, you know, because that's one of the fundamental assumptions that we have when we're thinking of leaving. The assumption is, I'm in this stable, secure, safe, comfort zone place where I have this amazing salary and I'm always going to be able to have this and that's my backup, to I'm in this crazy, risky place where I'm doing my own thing, but I don't have the money, etc. And that's obviously a ridiculously black and white scenario, which actually can be turned on its head. And if you have the right strategies and support and diversified income streams, then working for yourself can be much more robust. And as you've said, you've developed the resilience. And that's a very different scenario than to being at the sort of the whim of the finances of a company that you have no control over. And so you've already shared some insights, I think, that are really powerful that already in terms of advice. But what would, if you had one nugget that you could share with your own self, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or something you'd like to tell the listeners, what would you say?
I think it would be back to the capability piece. I'd like to go back and just impart a calm voice that can come through the chaos that would be faced over the next 5 years, and it's to just know that you can do it. It's hard, but it's not impossible. And again, it goes back to surrounding yourself with the right kind of role models and people and businesses who are doing it. And there's pretty much no reason why you can't do it too. But so the capability, I would definitely impart that kind of like, you can do it motivational speech to myself. But I'd also politely remind myself about showing up, about consistency, about like staying in your own lane. It's so easy with social media, with Instagram, with YouTube, to just be like, shiny, they're doing that, I'm going over here, and you need to just actually be like, here is what I'm doing, head down, go do it. Show up to yourself, show up to your business, show up to this plan, this dream, and there's no reason why you can't have it. But you do have to have a really resolute focus point that, as I said, it can be flexible, it can change. You do need to pick your path, and otherwise you just sort of dance on the spot and then you go nowhere.
Yeah, and that scattergun, as you say, it's so social media, with following all these different gurus. I had, again, I don't know, 8 or 10 people are like webinars and emails, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and so on, right? And it's just all over the place. And so just, I think that is probably the big success secret. If you just stick to a plan, probably any number of plans will work, but you just have to stick with it for long enough. And as you said, also the capability, you can do this. All of you watching can do this. It's not a question of if, I think it's a question of how you're going to make it work and when. So that's a massive shift. And it's hard to give that to someone, right? It's like someone, I was thinking of just now when you're speaking, when you're single and you're hoping to meet someone, and someone, you sort of want your future self to say, it's going to be okay, you're going to meet someone. And then, the same with your business, you want someone to say, yeah, don't worry, like it's going to happen, just keep going. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. We don't have sort of an angel who can come and tell us it's going to be okay. So we have to tell ourselves, and that's where the support network and the coach and so on is so important, because mindset, as we always talk about in the coaching world, is really almost, more important than all the mechanics and the tactics and the strategies and the information and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really easy to get lost in those things when actually there is no substitute to hard work. And it's not sexy and it's not cool. And in some ways, I'm kind of glad there's no future me 5 years ago saying it'll be all right, because I'd have just taken my foot off the pedal and I'd have just waited for it to be all right. Whereas now, I'm 30. It's not old, but I'm also just realizing I'm not forever, and I'm just really sick of waiting for things to be the way I want them to be. And I've the realization that the only way they're going to be that way is if I just go out there and make them that way. So I'm kind of done with dilly-dallying and doubting, I guess, and just actually going for it, because time is short and I want it really, really, really bad. So off I go.
Love that. I think we'll leave it there. Powerful insight to leave people to ponder. So where can we find you in the online space if you want to read more about your digital design for conscious businesses?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, which is www.inkedbytw.com. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, and we'll put my name, Terri Witherden, in the writing, in the blurb, because it isn't the easiest of spellings. And you can also find me on Instagram, where I'm currently planning on doing a lot more video content that's up and coming, and there will be a YouTube coming as well, both at Inked by TW.
Oh, that's exciting. Lots of new channels. That is really exciting to see you do video. I think this is great. So it's such a powerful format, and great that you have that confidence now that you can go out there and do that. So congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing that. I've loved watching the journey, both from afar and then when we have worked together, and as we are now in the accelerator, and so excited to see how you're going to take this forward and so on. So congratulations, and maybe we can connect again in a few years' time and see where the journey has taken you then.
That would be great.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Terri.
Thanks, Anna.